Hey everybody, it's Rob Tiffany. Just want to talk to you about comparing 5G and Spectrum to your AM FM radio, maybe your car stereo. I know this sounds bizarre, but just bear with me. All right, so you know your radio, you know AM, which you may not listen to as much anymore, you never know. And it's, amplitude modulation, it's down in the whatever, 8, kilohertz range, right? You don't think about that. Have you ever noticed how far your AM radio goes when you do listen to it? Have you ever driven? Do you remember maybe driving as a kid on a long trip across the country, and at nighttime you magically could hear an AM radio station that was coming from the other side of the country, and that just seemed like impossible to you? It has to do with how low the frequencies are. And that's spectrum. Radio stations are using a certain band of spectrum, and so you kind of got the bands that you think of on AM radio. They're really low. They're as low as it gets, and they go really far. Then you got FM. FM stands for frequency modulation. And so, you've got your, what do you start down? 88 megahertz, something like that, maybe 87, I don't know. I might be in Seattle listening to 107.7 The End, which is 107.7 megahertz. And keep in mind, it's not just right there on that one frequency. It has frequency above and below that, which is a frequency band. You need some bandwidth to move those signals through, right? To hear your music. And so there's an upper and lower bound. That's why all the radio stations aren't just right next to each other. It's not 107.6 is one radio station and 107.7 is another. They have some space in between them because they use that space to send signal. Could be music, talk, whatever. You even can send data over that. I remember the Microsoft Spot Watch that we did a zillion years ago, where we sent data over FM signals down to people's watch. It predated every smartwatch you can imagine. So that's what's going on. And so FM, if I'm at 107.7 listening to The End, or 104 KRBE in Houston listening to that, that's how many cycles it's doing, and so anyway, that gets you around the city, and it gets you way outside the city even. So then with cellular, it gets higher, and so there's the kind of the low band. Low band for cellular is way higher than FM or AM. It's under 1 gigahertz. Like the bottom might be 600 megahertz, which can go for several miles, which is really far for cellular networks. And so think of that low band of cellular kind of like you think of AM radio, Obviously, it's not going to go across the country. Then you got mid-band, around 3.5 gigahertz. And again, there's always a broad spectrum. It's not just that one frequency. It's a block of frequencies to have room to send data in your voice and things like that, just like we have room to send music. So the mid-band goes further than a high band, but not as far as a low band. But keep in mind, at the different bands, if it's low, it goes further, but it's slower. It's 5G, even on low band, still going to be faster than LTE, 4G. But at mid-band, it's not going to go quite as far. The wavelengths are shorter, but it's going to be faster. And then you have the really high band, 28 gigahertz, 29 gigahertz, that kind of thing. It's also called millimeter wave. That's super high frequencies, and it's really fast, and there's a lot of spectrum, a lot of a thicker band, more, pathways to send data through, right? That's where you're going to get crazy 5G speeds, like maybe 4 gigabit, something like that, we'll see that one day, right? Crazy speeds. It doesn't go as far. It's a shorter wavelength. There's a reason we call it millimeter wave. The wavelength is about 1 millimeter in length. So anyway, that's how you can think of the different frequencies and compare them to your AM, FM radio. AM goes far. FM goes not quite as far, and then you have cellular. Low band goes really far. Mid band, not quite as far. High band, really short. The higher you go, and the more bandwidth you get, the faster you go. More data you get, rather. So, same deal. Hope this makes it understandable to you. 5G spectrum, like your AM, FM car radio. I'm out.